way in between. We are now moving on to Missouri. A teenager was shot after going to the wrong house to pick up his brother. And the person who shot him was questioned by the police and then released. Right. Let's take a look.
Went to the wrong home to pick up his younger brothers, and the homeowner shot him. 16-year-old Ralph Yarl is recovering in the hospital in stable condition. His family describes him as a typical high schooler who loves to play the bass clarinet. He has been looking forward to starting college and majoring in chemical engineering. Police say Yarl's family say that he was given the address 115th Terrace, but he mistakenly went to a home at 115th Street instead. The shooter has been released, and there is sparking protest nationwide right now and outrage nationwide. CNN's Camila Bernal live for us in Los Angeles with more on this. Good morning to you, Camila. What is the status on this investigation?
Good morning, Don. Authorities say more is needed to go forward, and they need a statement from Ralph Yarl. He is doing well. He's in the hospital. He's recovering. But the family says that this is a long road, especially when it comes to his mental and his emotional health. This is a teenager that is being described as friendly and well-mannered. He loves music, and the family says plays multiple instruments, always had one in hand. He was dreaming about graduating and going to West Africa. All of this, of course, is going to be a lot more difficult now because he went to 115th Street instead of Terrace. He was just a block away from his brothers when he was shot.
Bro, I can't
The Kansas City community protesting.
I can't begin to fathom how glaringly obvious the sentiment expressed by our institutions are when you see a situation like this where like a young black teenager is shot for the crime of like ringing on the wrong doorbell, and the mistreatment by the state of the perpetrator is like deliberate. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. It has to be. Like it's basically the same as like the Daniel Perry circumstance where it's like, it doesn't matter. Like you are a criminal there's a reasonable doubt here of your criminality because you're a black kid. Okay? Because you're black. Like they want to basically reinforce the incredibly scary precedent that like you shoot a black kid, that's stand your ground, baby. You know what I mean? That's how it is. And from what I understand, he shot him and then shot him again.
So you probably heard this story. It's really awful. The 16-year-old kid who knocked on a door in a house in Kansas City, Missouri to look for his siblings whom he was picking up. Wrong house. The homeowner, instead of letting him go on his way, instead shoots the kid in the head and then shoots him again. The kid survived and is in recovery, but is in bad shape, obviously. The kid was black. Kid is black. The shooter is white. And there's been a lot of conversation around this about racism, rightfully so, about the wide availability of guns, rightfully so, about the lack of a benefit of the doubt that black children get, rightfully so. What I want to bring up really quickly, just because of my interest in sort of the history of gun regulation, of gun culture, and this sort of thing, is how this is sort of exactly this scenario from the perspective of the homeowner, the white homeowner, this scenario of a young black person coming to your home, probably a criminal, whom you can then shoot, is exactly what so many mouthpieces for the gun industry has been selling for decades. It's part of the pitch that you own one of these weapons. You own a lot of these weapons to defend your homestead, to defend your home, and from whom this image of urban crime, of urban disorder, of essentially black people. It's part of the pitch. And I don't think you can understand what has happened here without understanding that.
Exactly. It's the same attitude. It's spot on. It's reinforcing the narrative of, it's reinforcing the narrative that you need a gun to defend yourself from urban crime. 100%. That's exactly what it is. It's the same principle behind the McCloskeys becoming like, famous within the Republican world for running outside with their AR-15s when there were Black Lives Matter protests happening in their gated community. This is a way to sell guns. It's a way to sell guns through a white supremacist fantasy of vigilante justice being enacted towards those who you are terrified of, those who you believe have done something wrong. Absolutely what's going on. That's why I said it's the exact same mentality behind Governor Greg Abbott fantasizing about immediately pardoning Daniel Daniel I don't want to fuck up his name. It's Daniel Perry is the shooter, I think, right? I don't want to. Yeah, it is Daniel Perry who was the. Yeah. Garrett Foster is the person who he shot. But it's the same principle. Because Daniel Perry went to a Black Lives Matter rally, said he was going to shoot people. He fantasized about shooting protesters, and then he drove his car into a Black Lives Matter rally and then shot one of the Black Lives Matter protesters. And he was convicted. He was found guilty by a jury of his peers beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay? And yet, Governor Greg Abbott wants to pardon him. Why? Because that's what they want. They want the law to protect them and them only. If you go out and you shoot Black Lives Matter protesters, you will be safe. Don't worry. That's the message they want to put out there.
On Sunday, after 16-year-old Ralph Yarl was shot as he was trying to pick up his siblings last week. Police say Yarl accidentally went to the wrong address, where he was shot and seriously wounded by the homeowner. Officers arrived at the scene after a neighbor called 911 and took the homeowner immediately into custody.
Our heart goes out to the juvenile victim, and more than anything, to make sure that this child and this child's family knows that there are people working hard, a number of people working hard, to make sure there is justice for this person.
The homeowner, who has not been identified, was released after 24 hours pending further investigation. The police department says they're waiting to obtain a formal statement from the victim and further forensic evidence.
I want everyone to know that I'm listening.
What? Like, what? You need to know if he was asking for it? Is that what you want? What do you mean? Hey, what if he died? What if he died? No impact statement from the victim in that regard. So what do you do in that situation? You're just like, oh, oops, guess we can't solve it. We just need further forensic evidence. Like, what do you mean? A person literally just went up and fucking domed a teenager. This makes no sense. You would need that. You would need that if you believe that this person was truly acting in self-defense. Yeah, the kid is still alive, yes. And the fact that they didn't actually, keep him under custody and immediately launch a formal investigation implies that they kind of do give him credence to that, protecting your ground shit, the castle doctrine.
And I understand the concern that we are receiving from the community. The information that we have now, it does not say that it's racially motivated. That's still an active investigation. But as a chief of police, I do recognize the racial components of this case. I do recognize and understand the community's concern.
Yarl's aunt says her nephew loves music and is a section leader in his march.
2 points of clarification concerning the shooting of Ralph Yarl. The suspect was not detained for 24 hours. He was released in under 2 hours after providing a statement to the police. 2, police recorded a statement from Ralph in his hospital bed on Friday. So, like, they already have his statement.
Marching band. She says his goal is to attend Texas A&M University to study chemical.
The cops literally are behaving like me memeing when I say, like, oh, well, what are the vibes of this kid? Maybe he deserved to be bullied, that sort of thing. But in this circumstance, it's like literally a real situation where a dude shot and intentionally tried to kill a black teenager that came to his door. Okay? Like, they're like, hey, but what about his vibes, though? Was he good at the clarinet? You know what I mean? You want to bet that shooter's a cop or is friendly with the police department? I mean, possibly. Who knows?
Engineering. Civil rights attorneys Lee Merritt and Benjamin Crump are representing the victim and his family and demanding swift action, and are calling the shooting horrendous and unjustifiable.
As a mother of 3 children, this enrages me.
And protesters gathering Sunday outside the home where Yarl was shot, demanding justice.
He is alive. He is healing. Yes. So I just want to tell you thank you for being here because my nephew is alive.
And the homeowner was released. State law says you either have to charge someone or release them after 24 hours. And authorities here say they need more evidence. They want to talk to this teenager.
Yeah. He wasn't released after 24 hours. He was released after 2 hours. So mainstream media playing a little fast and loose with the situation here. Also, no further evidence. Bro, he shot him. How much you want to bet this is some fucking Gran Torino shit? I don't know anything. Okay? I don't know what's going on, but I'm willing to fucking bet that this particular situation, it's an old racist ass dude, I'm assuming. And they were just like, oh, he's just an old guy. You know, he doesn't mean harm to anybody, you know, except for the obvious harm he's conducted. You know? So, what are we going to do? We're going to put him in fucking jail? He might even be like an old cop or something. Apparently he's 84. Oh, there's information on him already?
And they want to continue this investigation. So he was released, and it's part of the reason why people are so upset this morning and why they're asking for justice. Don?
A lot more to unfold in this investigation. Thank you, Camilla Bernal.
I want to turn now to some last minute.
Wait. Accused teen shooter in Kansas?
The Kansas City community protesting on Sunday after 16-year-old Ralph Yarl was shot as he was trying to pick up his siblings last week. Police say Yarl accidentally went to the wrong address where he was shot and seriously wounded by the homeowner. Officers arrived at the scene after a neighbor called 911 and took the homeowner immediately into custody.
Our heart goes out to the juvenile victim, and more than anything, to make sure that this child and this child's family knows that there are people working hard, a number of people working hard, to make sure there is justice for this person.
The homeowner, who has not been identified, was released after 24 hours pending further investigation. The police department says they're waiting to obtain a formal statement from the victim and further forensic evidence.
I want everyone to know that I'm listening, and I understand the concern that we are receiving from the community. The information that we have now, it does not say that it's racially motivated. That's still an active investigation. But as a chief of police, I do recognize the racial components of this case. I do recognize and understand the community's concern.
Everyone's a liberal. Everyone's a liberal. That's like did Kamala Harris write this, dude? Everyone's a liberal. I recognize the racial components of this, but as of now, we do not believe that there's enough evidence to declare there's a racial component. That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's like when they say that, they mean like we know the victim is a black teenager and the shooter is a white guy. That's what they're saying, I think. But I don't know. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not even a fucking white guy. Maybe he's a black guy. Who knows? I don't have any details of the dude, but old people or people in general in America are fucking terrified. Okay? Oh yeah, they said he's white, actually. Never mind. It is a white guy. But old people in this country, and just like Republicans in this country, gun owners in this country, are fucking terrified. Okay? They're fucking terrified. They constantly watch Fox News, and Fox News is like, black people are coming to your neighborhood. They're going to burn down your favorite Applebee's. Like, all day, every day, that's what they see.
Yarl's aunt says her nephew loves music and is a section leader in his marching band. She says his goal is to attend Texas A&M University to study chemical engineering. Civil rights attorneys Lee Merritt and Benjamin Crump are representing the victim and his family and demanding swift action, and are calling the shooting horrendous and unjustifiable.
As a mother of 3 children, this enrages me.
And protesters gathering Sunday outside the home where Yarl was shot, demanding justice.
He is alive. He is healing. Yes. So I just want to tell you thank you for being here, because my nephew is alive.
Now, the homeowner was placed on a 24-hour hold. This is according to Missouri state law. The thing here is after those 24 hours, he either has to...
He wasn't. That's bullshit. Anyway. Neighbor spoke with CNN. Said they did not hear the shooting because they were asleep, but did say once awake. We came outside. The victim was laying on the street surrounded by a few of our other neighbors. Wild. So, like, a bunch of other neighbors came outside and didn't call the cops? Like, what the fuck? That's nice. He continues to improve. He's responsible for making good progress. After spending 3 nights in the hospital, Ralph is recovering at home, being cared by his mother, who's a nurse. Family attorney Ben Crump. We have been informed by his family that it was a white man who shot their 16-year-old son, Crump said, explaining that he believes the teen was shot because he's black. It is inescapable not to observe the racial dynamics here, said Crump. If roles were reversed, he continued, how much outrage would there be in America? At a weekend rally, community and family members marched and demonstrated in front of the man's house, calling for charges to be filed. Protesters marched as they chanted "Justice for Ralph," "Black Lives Matter," and carried signs reading, "Ringing a doorbell is not a crime," and "The shooter should do the time." The teen's father said, "We want charges. That's all we want." The family is seeking swift action. When he was trying to pick up his younger brother, when he mistakenly rang the doorbell at the wrong house, a man shot Ralph twice, and now he's in critical condition. Someone called the cops or the man wouldn't have been arrested. Man, they didn't even call the fucking ambulance. Do you see? Like, they didn't call 911. People in this neighborhood saw a dude in their neighborhood shoot a black teenager in their neighborhood and immediately didn't go, gunshots, let's call 911. Something is missing from the story? Yes. Details about the shooter. The shooter's motive. He crawled 3 houses before getting help. What? One of the Yarl's attorneys also says that the shooter said, "Don't come back around here," and immediately shot the teen. Yarl went to 3 homes for help. At the third, Yarl, who had been shot in the head, was told to lie on the ground and put his hands in the air. What? Why is CNN not mentioning any of this shit? I know he's out of the hospital now. And his situation continues to improve. And like I said, his mother is taking care of him. His mother's a nurse. I don't get why. I don't understand why CNN is not actually talking about any of this other shit. Emerging details of the incident illustrate the strength and bravery shown by the high school junior after he was shot. A neighbor who asked not to be identified tells CNN she called 911 after Ralph came to her door bleeding. She was directed to stay inside her home by the emergency operator for her safety, as the shooter's location was unknown. "I wanted to help him, but they kept saying, 'We don't know where the shooter is at,'" the woman said. She complied initially, then went outside with towels to help suppress the bleeding. "I kneeled down next to him and I said, 'What's your name? Who shot you?' She said Ralph explained he was supposed to pick up his brother. We figured out then he went to the wrong street, which is no excuse for what happened," she said. "This is somebody's child. I had to clean blood off my door, off my railing. That's someone's child's blood. I'm a mom. This is not okay." While waiting for the ambulance, bleeding from the injuries to the left side of his head and his right arm, the neighbor said Ralph told her he runs the high school track team and plays the bass clarinet in band. "He was very alert," she said. "He's a very strong man, very brave." The aunt's TikTok.
Police say someone inside a Northland home shot a teen in error after the boy drove to the wrong address to pick up younger siblings. Good evening. I'm Shannon Russo.
I'm Kevin Barry.
An error.
He was supposed to go to a home on Northwest 115th Terrace. Instead, he went to a home 1 block over on Northeast 115th Street.
Lake County Prosecutor's Office says that they have not received any.
Wow. An error? Whoopsie, just did a hate crime. Bro, at this point, I'm sorry, but like, this has to be, I feel like they're tilting the scales a little bit, right, with their coverage on this shit. I don't know if it's because they partially feel like they're responsible for all the racial animosity that they have highlighted, that they have basically, given constant coverage to, where it's like, black people are all over the streets. Urban crime is coming to your neighborhood. Watch out. Like, that's all they fucking talk about. So maybe they bear a little bit of responsibility for that. So they're like covering their footsteps, or they're just the same exact amount of racist. And ultimately are covering it this way because they don't give a shit, or because, and this is perhaps the most nefarious, they are scared of the understandable consequences of the inaction from the state, that ultimately they don't want any protests to happen. So they're basically trying to soften the coverage of the issue without giving you a full accounting of what happened, so that there are no protests, which is why they're engaging in what I would consider to be almost a cover-up at this point.
Any criminal referral, but this is still a very active investigation, with police telling us that this teen is in the hospital with injuries that are considered to be life-threatening. At the home where neighbors say it happened, a man vacuums the front steps after replacing a glass door. Fox 4 asked what happened.
I guess you'll have to check with other authorities.
Well, do you know this? Quote, suspect was brought to headquarters to give a statement. Older visitors also did not answer questions. Do you know any details about it?
Yeah, but I'm not at liberty to give that out, man. You know that.
Why not? Well, you're a friend.
Yeah, he's my buddy, man, and I love him to death.
Is he an older guy? It's not this guy, right?
No, come on, man. We all take care of one another, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Y'all, There was nothing that was an error about that shooting.
Yeah, they take care of one another, you know?
My nephew rang the doorbell. He opened up the door. He shot him in the head and said, "Don't come back here again."
He had surveillance on the house. He knew who was at the door. Oh, yeah. Ring cameras and all, right?
When he fell down, he shot him again. That is not an error.
City police say someone inside a Northland home shot a teen in error after the boy drove to the wrong address.
It's like covering Emmett Till is an error.
Last night, my nephew was on his way.
Okay. Yarl was shot in the head, which cracked his skull and left him with a critical traumatic brain injury, the attorney said. While the teenager was still on the ground, the homeowner opened fire a second time, striking Yarl in the upper right arm. How the encounter turned violent so quickly still confuses Yarl as he recovers, his aunt Faith Spoonmore said. We'll remind him, like, "Ralph, you're alive, buddy." And then he has the times where he's like, "Why? I did nothing wrong. Why? I did nothing wrong." And he just cannot understand why, Spoonmore said. So it's waves. He goes through waves. Merritt said Yarl is now in stable condition and out of the hospital. Police have not released the name of the race of the resident who opened fire. He was taken into custody and held for 24 hours, the maximum. He was not held for 24 hours. Why is everyone in the media saying he was held for 24 hours? Maximum for a suspect until felony charges are filed, Police Chief Stacey Graves said. CNN said he was held for like less than 2 hours and he was a white 80-year-old guy. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. Police have not released the name of the race of the resident who have opened fire. The Kansas City, Missouri Police Department said in a statement Monday that they've submitted the investigative case to the Clay County Prosecutor's Office to review charges. Yarl said the person who shot him was a white man who seemed angry and hostile by his presence on the property, his attorney said. Merritt said the teenager miraculously saved his own life by fleeing and banging on at least 3 neighbors' doors for help. 3. And on the third home, Merritt said the neighbor told Yarl to lie on the ground and put his hands in the air. He complied and then passed out. So even that fucking last neighbor who was like, "I'm a mom and I wanted to save his life," or whatever, it seems like even she wasn't so fucking nice. I don't know. Maybe they weren't home, though. Well, actually, you know what? I bet the mom that came out with the towels and shit was a separate party. Because the person who called 911 said that there were people around the kid that were, like, looking down at him. Merritt said the neighborhood where the shooting occurred is predominantly white and conservative and commonly referred to among locals as God's country. We've heard reports from black people who live in the neighborhood, who visit the neighborhood, that there seems to be a standing hostility towards black presence in that community. Karen Skinner, who has lived on 115th Street for more than 30 years, said the shooting in her neighborhood surprised her, given how her block is typically quiet and crime isn't an issue. It's a neighborhood in which I'm not even going to walk on my neighbor's yard because they're all very well manicured. Yeah. Skinner said, adding that the street includes many older white homeowners whose children have since grown. In recent years, newer families have been moving in, including a black family, she said, but most residents keep to themselves. By the way, that's what they mean when they say there's no crime. They just mean like there's no presence of black people in our neighborhoods. Yeah, someone in the chat also said this, but in a lot of instances, a lot of people themselves don't even fucking recognize that they're living in a sundown town because they just simply never see black people around. So they just take it for granted and think like, oh no, like there's no crime here, right? And they don't even realize like their neighbors are fucking psychotic racists half the fucking time because, you know, there's no additional racist component, triggering their outwardly aggressive stance against black people in the sense, and by that I mean the presence of a black body, but also a lot of those people are also blind to these realities, you know? They're blind to the realities of white supremacy in this country. They're privileged. They are unaware. They don't recognize it. So they think it must not exist here. Anyway. Yeah. Media is reporting that the Kansas City man who shot Ralph Yarl, 16, is a white man in his 80s. He hasn't been rearrested as investigators consider whether he's protected by Missouri's Stand Your Ground law. And for you to understand, Stand Your Ground is quite literally the reason for the reason why Stand Your Ground exists as a law is so that the guy who shot this kid, this teenager, can get away with it. That's like the entire purpose of Stand Your Ground. For the record, it's not for like the random cases where like you do have a legitimate home invasion and you fucking shoot to defend yourself. It's not that. This is the whole purpose of it. The whole purpose of it is like, oh, I was afraid. It gives you almost cop-like powers to do what cops do all the time, which is, this isn't Stand Your Ground. This is Castle Doctrine. Castle Doctrine is the original version of Stand Your Ground. Stand Your Ground laws that are designed in places like Florida and whatnot actually come from the Castle Doctrine. It's the same principle. Stand Your Ground is simply a continuation of the Castle Doctrine beyond the Castle Doctrine, outside of your own house. Okay? All of it is also because self-defense, as it's written in the fucking rule of law, is not enough. Just understand that. Because you do have a right to defend yourself. Okay? You just don't have a right to offense yourself. Okay? You can't do like offensive maneuvers normally at the behest of defending yourself, which is why Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground exists to begin with. Okay? That's it. That's why they have extra laws, you know, circumstances where like maybe you didn't actually defend yourself, but you can get away with it by claiming you did because the law allows you to do so. This is the express purpose of it. Anyway. Great stuff in the worst fucking nation on earth. In the